I don't know, Ernie Pyle fan club president, Mr. Buzz Murdock. Buzz. So, Ernie Pyle, the resurgence with him.
Well,
it's neat to see.
Yeah, I think they'll be like, it's funny how things run in cycles like that. You know, how people that are so obscure at one point in history all of a sudden become, really popular
Hip.
again.
Right.
Yeah.
What they did is just like, it just strikes people's fancy or something. You know, to use a term that also probably cycles.
One of the things that I find kind of unfortunate today is that people just seem to be so stuck in one kind of vein. You know, you talk to kids today and they go, well, I don't really listen to that, or I don't really read that. You know, if it isn't this one type of thing, they just don't relate to it. And I don't think myself, when I was younger, I regimented myself to that kind of, secular thinking so much.
I think that's open-mindedness, right? Isn't that basically what it is?
I think it's a certain kind of, like Eric Fromm was talking about, escape from freedom, where everybody looks for a reference group that they can feel comfortable with. And I think once you get outside of that reference, you become, sort of a stranger in a strange land. And to some that's an adventure, to some that's a real paranoid schizophrenic experience.
What's it been for you? Do you know an adventure or a paranoid?
It's been sort of an
paranoid
adventurous, paranoid, schizophrenic experience.
So for some people, they don't get the whole spectrum.
No, they only get like half of it, or they only get a slice of it. They don't get the whole banana.
Whole Gestalt package.
Yeah.
Whole banana. Okay, so do you think you could have come up with a good story if you would have gone to where Ernie Pyle went?
No, again, it all goes back to it doesn't really matter, if there's a good story there. That's why I think writing's a lot more, difficult than something like photography, because you can go to some place
to actually
and take a picture of something or that encapsulates it. That really, there's discipline there. You develop it if you develop it, but still, it's sort of an accidental odyssey. Where with writing, it's not that way at all. It's something that you have to really, delve deeply into yourself and bring out again, and make real to other people in a way that activates their imagination, not so much something they can look at and go. It's like the old saying, a picture's worth 1,000 words. So if you can imagine, somebody snaps a picture, and then you got to come up with 1,000 words to equalize it. That's one of the things like, we were talking about Marshall McLuhan earlier.
So why even be a writer, huh?
Why? I don't think people I don't think people have choices,
That's probably true. But, and good writing does things that a picture could never do. That's obviously the reason why.
Well, what I was going to say was that, Marshall McLuhan in his books with Quentin Foray, he realized that he had a lot of technical knowledge, but the way to get it across was through Foray's, layout, of popular, culture. Yeah, pictures of Dylan, pictures of the Vietnam War, cartoons, things of the Chaplin would show in the movie Modern Times of man being eaten up by a machine. There were a lot of things to illustrate kind of how, there'd been more progress in the last 50 years than in the previous 500, and that's a real, projection as far as, technology goes, and, somehow kind of, overcoming man's own identity. And before that, it was like a more of a leisurely pace, and there was a tribal thing that wasn't so involved with things that were happening on television. The thing that makes McLuhan really interesting to me is that he says the television in your living room is kind of like the campfire in a tribal setting, and people become very involved, in the hypnotic flame or tribal kind of concept that, the tribe is all of the world now, because they all watch like John Glenn. They all see the same thing, at the same time pretty much. So that's a unique situation that's never before ever happened in history as far as I know.
No.
To go back to the beginning, Ernie Pyle, he talked about a party in Santa Fe with some people that, he really enjoyed intellectualizing with. They weren't posers. They were people that, he said really listened to what he had to say and the adventures that he'd gone through. And at this party, as everybody kind of sometimes gravitates towards the basement, there was a woman that had been in the Follies, Ziegfeld Follies, maybe 20 years before or 10 years before, that he'd seen on Broadway, and had been just really awestruck by her physicality. And obviously, she was doing some kind of dancing. I don't know what exactly kind of dancing she was doing, but it just sort of mesmerized him. And then she went into some rather melodramatic scene. And he said at 3 in the morning they had to kind of drag him out of this place because he was having such a great time. And he thought this would be a wonderful way to build a career, was just to go to good parties and kind of report on all the good times he was having. Certain columnists have actually gotten away with doing that. So, I don't know. If you're looking to avoid work, as I have my whole life, maybe that's a possibility. Just kind of going to cultured events, recounting them for people, making them relish your enjoyment about being there, and, passing for you don't really know, are you here as a tourist, or are you here for real? Sometimes we're tourists, sometimes we're for real. Right, Ed?
How much does that pay exactly?
What's that, to be a tourist, to be for real?
Yeah, no, it'll do that whole thing where you capture it so they can relish in it. And the whole thing
Well, I think the thing is, one of the values of being like in media is you interconnect with things. And the pay is kind of just in the, advantageous situations you allow yourself to be, put into, and the interesting people you kind of meet. Because if you're in situations where you feel like, what you're learning yourself can't be kind of shared with the people around you, you sort of stagnate. And I think part of the charm about being a freelance type of person is that you go where your wonderment leads you, and instead of floundering, you're out there wandering.
I lost somebody and they cry for you.